committee, a very, very raucous crowd today. Of course, I want to thank past presidents, Mayor Couts, Barnett, and Fisher for being here. And with this pandemic in mind, this meeting is being run a little different than it has in the past. And we want to make sure we're keeping people safe and healthy. But I must say it is so nice to be in the same room with my fellow mayors. As we always say, and as former Mayor Bill Peduto used to say, there's three parties in America, Mr. Mayor. I said, well, really, Mayor, what are they? He goes, well, there's Republicans, there's Democrats, and there's mayors. That is the idea embedded deep in our souls. It's what makes mayors different. We are a bipartisan organization who serve people first. We come here at such an important time. It is what we all hope can be an inflection point. Over the last 2 years, mayors have served on the front line of American democracy. And so often, when leadership was lacking at higher levels of government, it was mayors who were solving problems, promoting public safety, supporting our small businesses, addressing homelessness. We can't have a strong America without strong cities. Earlier this morning, the conference released a new report on the county's metro economies, and it shows that cities are leading the recovery effort. In 2021, America's cities accounted for almost 90% of the nation's GDP, and real GDP growth in our metro economies grew faster than the national average, a trend that is expected to continue well into 2022. We must build on this trend to ensure a sustained economy for America. At the same time, we all know that challenges remain. While unemployment rates have dropped, in particular in our cities, workforce shortages remain. We must continue to help people re-enter the labor force to ensure continued economic recovery. And we know that we can't do it alone. We need partners in the private sector, and we need partners in the federal government. That's why over the last year, the Conference of Mayors successfully urged Congress to provide resources for local governments in the American Rescue Plan. Those funds are already being put to work to strengthen our economies and make our cities more resilient. It's also why we rallied Congress to pass a bipartisan infrastructure bill that we believe will soon help us leap years ahead in things like our transportation systems. We also know that a lot of work remains. The threats posed by climate change, which exist in all of our cities, the opportunities that exist to modernize our economies, including a compact on cryptocurrency, the need to keep cities safe and rebuild trust between our residents and those who work every day to protect them. This pandemic that has not yet, unfortunately, been defeated. We need an all-hands-on-deck approach to address these challenges. So in addition to the conversations we'll have as mayors, we're excited to welcome some important guests from Congress, both Republican and Democrat, and from the administration, in addition to 11 cabinet secretaries. We will also be talking, great response from our administration, We will also be speaking with Speaker Pelosi and Leader McCarthy, and of course, the President of the United States, Joe Biden. By the way, in all 4 years I've been a mayor, that's never happened before. So that's, and kudos to the White House for that. We want to foster a dialogue that drives recovery. Right now, billions of dollars being spent, deployed from the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and one of our most important messages is that we must prioritize local control, local investment, and local involvement in how those dollars are spent. We have a vision for America that can create stronger economies, safer communities, and more resilient cities. I look forward to outlining this vision as we move forward and lifting up the incredible work being done every day by my fellow mayors who are here today with me and those outside. And with that, I want to turn it over to, I say these are my brothers and sisters, I mean, at the end of the day. But I want to turn it over to someone who gave me a belt in El Paso, my good friend, the mayor of Los Angeles, Mayor Eric Garcetti, who will be the ambassador to India. And I told him I have. And I told him I'm leading the Republicans for Garcetti committee for that effort.
Thanks, brother. Let's give it up for our new president. Gracias, hermano, y felicidades en su liderazgo. Buenos dias. Good morning, everybody. What a joy it is to be with my fellow brother and sister mayors, where we do come to show that the 30,000 local communities of America not only still do work, but that America can work. Because we look at a society that's increasingly finding what separates us, but when we go home, we find what unites us. I chair our infrastructure task force and have lived long enough in this organization to finally see infrastructure passed here in our nation's capital, with so many of the mayors witnessed, Republicans, Democrats, and independents who came together on that lawn to not only see each other, it was like a college reunion. And thank God the president took his time to come out, because we got to see each other and take pictures with each other, see the face of America, and feel the hope of America again. And I want to say something about our new president as well. I hosted a dinner at our Boston meeting a few years ago, and I remember he and then Cincinnati Mayor John Cranley were sitting next to each other. They talked about climate, they talked about immigration for an hour plus at dinner. And then Cranley turned to Suarez and said, "You're a Democrat, right?" He said, "No, actually, I'm a Republican." And then Suarez said to Cranley, "But you're a Republican, right?" He said, "No, actually, I'm a Democrat." And that is exactly who we are, Americans first. Doers before complainers. And I'm so excited to see the Infrastructure and Jobs Act pass, whether it's helping us get the supply chain to not only save Christmas, and Christmas did arrive, for those of that are Jewish, Hanukkah even earlier, and for also all of us to see from clean water to housing to transit to jobs to local hire, to finally do what America does right. When we find each other, we find not just the state, the United States of America, but the nation too. So finally, let me say this. We can't let up. I don't care what year is an election year. I don't care what year is an odd or an even year. I don't care what the strategists are telling us about the politics. We will always stand up for the values that undergird this country. We will stand up for the people who demand action, and we will show them that government still can and does work. Thank you.
And from my brother, I move on to my sister. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, for remarks. Pause for remarks. Go ahead, Mayor.
Well, good morning, everyone, and it's great to be here with my fellow mayors. Eric is right. There's an enthusiasm when we get together because we see each other as on the front lines, making sure that we're being as responsive as possible to our residents and solving problems. As mayors, there's no kicking the can down the road. Right. Every day we are called upon to deliver for our residents, and we've been doing that. And we've been doing that in the face of, I think, unprecedented times, not just in a city like Chicago, but really across the country. A pandemic, a massive economic meltdown, social unrest, rising violence. But through it all, we persevere because we must. Our residents are facing some of the most challenging times in their lives. And how we address these issues on the front line in cities, but across our country, is going to make a difference for generations to come. I'm certainly excited and appreciative of all the federal resources that have come our way. I'm telling my folks in Chicago, this is our WPA moment. This is an opportunity for us to take unprecedented resources and really give life and value to the notion of an equitable and inclusive recovery. I'm honored to be in the presence of so many mayors that are doing great innovative things that, frankly, I'm going to steal and take back with me to Chicago. Let me say it's great to see already the leadership of our new president, Frank Suarez from Miami. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and I just feel the energy pumping in this room. I also want to say thank you to Mayor Garcetti. He'll be leaving us soon, I think, I hope, to take on new responsibilities, but he's been a tremendous friend and leader, and I know he's going to make us proud in his new line of service as the ambassador to India. Look, we have a lot of challenges that we have to face as a country. And as Mayor Suarez said, everything runs through cities. The GDP, making sure that we're getting our kids back in school in person, making sure that we are rebuilding the infrastructure for small businesses, but also our safety net has been frayed over these last 2 years. We know that COVID-19 in particular has disproportionately affected Black and brown and Asian residents in our cities, and we have got to rally as we have. Even though we're tired, even though we've been broken a little bit, we must move forward. And I think this conference is about setting that tone, taking on the challenges, not only of this year, but really writing a different chapter for cities. It wasn't that long ago that you heard conversations at the national level. Well, cities are passé. The world is passing cities by. Not so fast. We are here. We are getting it done. We are driving local economies, and we are making sure that our residents are front and center of the work that we are doing. Never, ever bet against America's cities. So again, thank you very much for being here. This is a great conference. I'm honored to be with my fellow mayors and look forward to continued conversations. And I'll turn it back over to our president.
Thank you, Mayor. That energy is a function of the amount of Cuban coffee that I drink, and I don't often pause. So you should be honored that I pause for you, because we don't usually pause. But now I'd like to call up another dear friend, the chair of the African American Mayors Association, who led a beautiful panel yesterday. A great way to start the conference with a very comprehensive discussion on racial equity. And I'd like to call up my friend, Mayor Sylvester Turner.
Let me start off by again acknowledging President Suarez's leadership, and he doesn't get older. It seems like he gets younger. Maybe it is that Cuban coffee. Hell, I want to get some of that, you know. But but let me thank you for your leadership, and let me also join in, Mayor Garcetti, wishing you the very, very best. And thank you, because you started U.S. Climate Mayor, so certainly want to acknowledge and look forward to just seeing you in another role. And then to all of these outstanding mayors who are here, and Mayor Lightfoot and Mayor Ginther, I know will be following me, but to all of these mayors that I have learned so much from. So I want to thank you. Look, when I came in as mayor a little more than 6 years ago, green, and didn't know very much, but I found a lot of support from this group. And so Mayor Hancock took me under his wing, and so many others, and Mayor Couch. So I just want to thank you. Let me just say, this is where the rubber meets the road. We are on the front line. I tell people all the time, we can't get away from our constituents. When we go to the grocery stores, they are there. Wherever the meetings are, they are there. And like myself, I still live in the same hood in which I grew up, so they come knocking on the door saying, Sylvester, I know you're in there. They don't say, Mayor. They say, Sylvester, I know you are in there, so you may as well come out. But let me just say, you know, when it comes to infrastructure issues, homelessness, the economy, we learn from one another, and we on the front line. And I can tell you what it meant last night. And I give a great deal of credit to Mayor Suarez and President Suarez and to Mayor Adler for starting the conversation that we had on race, the compact on racial equity. There were so many bipartisan mayors joined in signing that compact on racial equity. That meant a great deal. And now even in this conversation, as we talk about two very important bills that are in the Senate, just in this month of January, you know, over 151 bipartisan mayors, people from both sides of the aisle, signed this letter that we sent to the United States Senate, encouraging the senators on both sides to move forward on the Freedom to Vote Act and on the John Lewis Voter Rights Advancement Act. Because we recognize as mayors that in our cities, we represent everyone. We represent, it doesn't matter whether you're an African American, Hispanic, Asian, white, we represent everyone. And we recognize that the bedrock of our democracy is that right to vote. And so this organization, bipartisan in nature, which is the organization that we all come to dearly love, signed 151 mayors, saying to the members of the U.S. Senate, to all of the senators, not just one or two, not just to Republicans or just to Democrats, but encouraging all of them. And the reason is because back in 1964, when the Civil Rights Act was passed, and then in 65, when the Voter Rights Act was passed, it changed things quick, fast, and in a hurry. And let me just speak from the state of Texas. Right after that voter rights bill was signed in 1965, it was the Justice Department that said to the state of Texas, you must now stop using that poll tax that's preventing so many people from voting in your state. And I cannot tell you what that meant to the people in our state, to the people in our cities. Because we can talk about infrastructure. We can talk about homelessness. We can talk about the economy. We can talk about public safety. But what is at the heart of that is when people have the right to exercise their fundamental right. That is what is so important. And we all get that. And so even now, in my state, when you eliminate 24-hour voting, drive-through voting, city of Houston is 640 square miles. And when you only have one drop box in 640 square miles, that has a significant impact, okay? And so I want to just say, as we come here and we stand here, and as mayors, we are the embodiment of every single person in our city. And I am so proud of this organization that I happen to be a member of, a chair of the African American Mayors Association, trustee with the U.S. Conference of Mayors, but how this organization, President, has always stood up for every single person in our respective cities, and will continue to do that. And so I simply ask Congress and the Senate and others to move forward in passing both of these bills, because this is the moment, this is the time, it's a defining moment, because when we go back home, we at least want to be able to say we stood up for every single person within our respective cities. So, Mr. President, to all the mayors that are here, I just want you all to know how proud I am to stand with each one of you, Republicans and Democrats alike, because we know for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, there is no respect of persons. And unless we are all included, then we all hurt and feel the pains and frustrations of everyone within our respective cities. So thank you, Mr. President. Very proud to be a part of it.
Amen. Preach.
Is this mic droppable?
Yeah. I love what the mayor said that. I love where the mayor said that we are the embodiment of our cities. I think that's very beautiful. And if my energy comes from my Cuban coffee, my youthfulness comes from my Cuban wife. So now I have the distinct honor and privilege to introduce Mayor Ginther to provide concluding remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, President Suarez. What a great session last evening and into this morning, and these mayors lending their voices to some of the most important issues facing our country. When Mayor Turner and I were talking voting rights just last night, we said we're going to keep it plain. Just make it plain. There were more voters in 2016 in the presidential election than any time in American history, and a Republican was elected. In 2020, there were more voters than ever in American history for president, and a Democrat won. America is the greatest country on the face of the planet, and when more Americans vote, America wins. It is the bedrock of our cities, our states, and our nation. And when 37 states have passed or are considering passing voter suppression and limitation, We need the federal government to act. The reason we needed the Voting Rights Act in 1965 was clear. And the reason we need the John Lewis Act today is also very clear. So we encourage Republicans, Democrats, just like us here this morning, to come together and protect our democracy, protect the right to vote for Republicans, Democrats, and independents in every corner of this country. It is the bedrock of all that we are as Americans. So thrilled to be with you today and look forward to greeting the President of the United States on Friday. I want to thank President Suarez for his incredible leadership and all of my colleagues here as we continue to lead America's recovery.
Thank you so much for being here. That concludes the press conference unless there are any questions. Go ahead.
I can go.
Okay. It's not that far.
You guys touted a lot of the things that the federal government has done to help you recover from the pandemic so far. What is it that you would like to see them do still to help you make a full recovery? What are you asking from them?
I'll open it up for some of the mayors to comment, but I think flexibility in terms of federal funding is something that's important. I think there was a very vast improvement between CARES and ARPA in terms of the targeted funding for cities, something that we worked very, very arduously on to make sure that the money went directly to cities and not to counties or states, where a lot of it got, unfortunately, bottlenecked under CARES. So, just working with us to give us clear guidance on what we can and can't do as cities to make sure that as we spend this money, we're doing it in a way that doesn't create any future problems for us.
I'll jump in on that.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I would say it's been great to finally see the physical infrastructure, to finally have funds that are going to help rebuild bridges and railways, ports and airports, waterways, etc. But we need the human infrastructure passed. We need Build Back Better. We need Build Back Better to be passed. We need the environmental and climate assistance, which right now really is not flowing at the level that meets this crisis. And then I would say it's the spiritual level. So it's the physical, it's the human, and the spiritual level, which isn't legislation. Stop making this about two senators. We should have senators from both sides coming together to solve problems that all Americans face.
Hi, thank you guys for having us. Brittany Shepard, ABC News.
Thank you.
The question casting forward to the White House press conference later on today. As you guys are preparing for Joe Biden to speak, is there anything that you are looking forward to him saying? And separate on voting rights, I know you guys have been very vocal. You're sending letters to Congress, but with the president actually going to be here on Friday, is there any plan for a more aggressive lobbying of the White House or any members of Congress who might be here on getting voting rights over the finish line?
Mayor Turner, you want to jump back in on this? Thanks.
Well, I think it's a responsibility from all of us to be aggressive, because anytime the rights of one is denied, we're all impacted. I don't care who we are. And let me just say to you, we can build the finest roads. We can have the best public works system in the world, okay? Even the economy can be flowing. But when people rights are denied, then that undercuts everything that we seek to achieve. The bedrock of our democracy is the right to vote. Okay? And I am as connected to Mayor Couch as Mayor Couch is to me. And anything that infringes on her rights affects me. Okay? And so what I will say, from a historical point of view, from the 1920s to the early 1960s, the filibuster rule, for example, it was used to deny anti-lynching bills. The filibuster was used to deny bills that says no to discrimination in housing, employment, and the right to vote. The filibuster rule was used to deny bills that would prohibit the poll tax. And that's why in the state of Texas, the poll tax remained in effect until 1965. So I don't know what we can say to persuade senators on both sides that when you don't protect people's right to vote, your interests are not enhanced. And we are all adversely affected. And so my plea would be for those bills to go forward. And what I would say to all senators, this is really not the time to play politics. This is not the time to decide what mechanisms we're going to allow, even in respective states, in order to achieve the persons that we would like to win. It's really not even about that. It's not about that. But it is about letting every single person in our country know that there is no one any greater and there's no one any less. That's all it says. So allow the people their right to vote, and then sell them your ideas on why they ought to vote for you. But don't try to win it before they get to the polling booth.
Of course. I'm sure that will be. One thing about this conference that I've learned in the 4 years that I've been here is, and it's a Spanish saying, "No tenemos pelo en la lengua." That means that we're not afraid to speak our minds, right? And I would say this, just to sort of add to that, which is something I'll emphasize soon in my remarks. And it's something that Mayor Benjamin, who was a prior president, along with the ones that are here, always reminded me of. 85% of the population of America is in American cities, and 91% of the GDP. So if any elected official doesn't listen to what this conference is saying, they do it at their peril. And I don't think that the influence of this conference has ever been any less than what it is today. I think it's at its greatest point. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very honored to be able to preside over it now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Hands in the middle. Good job.